Thank you for your support.
Right, shalom, shalom. Brother Lee, I'm gonna be we are recording, so I must be switching over to my other device. But everything is set up, so I'll be in and out for a couple of seconds.
Okay.
Continue to ping them. All right.
No, it's
Everyone
fine.
continue to everyone continue to ping as many. I know, like Leo said, it's a few classes going on, but we know that those that are interested in the basis of garden will come and show out. So we're gonna continue to ping everyone in here and get this place many people in here so they can get this lesson.
Come on. I'm gonna get started in about 2 minutes. I don't want to, you know, uh, make everyone else wait longer as we continue to ping. So, in about a minute 30 to 2 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming into the room. Continue to ping. We're gonna get started in about a minute. Thank you. All right, Ben, you ready? We're all set.
Cover.
Okay. How's the background noise? Is it
You,
you hear
you
anything in the background?
you're clear, King.
Okay. Thanks. Welcome to tonight's lesson. First, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Shout out to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Greetings and blessings. Hope everyone's been having a good week um, and a good day. So, over the past 11 lessons, well, tonight we're doing a lesson. This is episode 12 of Jacob's Trouble, the basics of gardening. So, over the past, I say, 11 lessons, we went over various topics of regarding Jacob's trouble. Brother Ben has a playlist on his YouTube channel. Just go to his YouTube channel. Oh, and Ben, if it's getting too loud or if it starts to get loud, just let me know. I can just change spaces or do something. But so just let me know if you start to hear some background noise. Um, or if, if you guys start hearing some background noise, just raise your hand and I'll know that it's getting loud back here. Um, So over the past 11 lessons, we've done a broad overview of broad and in-depth review over Jacob's trouble regarding various topics that we can expect during the last days. First episode, we did a very broad overview while touching some points of food storage and, self-defense and things like that. Then we started to focus on various topics specifically for each lesson, dealing with the famine, hyperinflation, crashing economy, power outages, cyber attacks, food storages, food rotation, water supply, water purification, water storage. We also discussed various types of skills that we should learn that will prove beneficial. Um, We talked about, sewing, bushcraft, how to make a fire, basic navigation, things like that. Now, throughout that whole, series, which covers about 11 episodes, um, we last week we went over, kind of did a recap on food storage with the emphasis on food rotation. Now, with that, we did a different segment regarding Jacob's Trouble called Analyzing Jacob's Trouble. And that's where we take various films and TV shows and extrapolate relevant lessons regarding Jacob's Trouble and what we can learn from it to apply in the future. But for this episode, we're going back to the normal Jacob's Trouble preparedness with episode 12, the basics of gardening. Now, a few things to note about gardening in relation to Jacob's Trouble. That's pretty much what some of the requests have been regarding gardening. So now with gardening, there's a few things to consider. I'm going to kind of give you a broad overview, and then we're going to go in depth of the basics. Because again, this could be 50 classes on gardening. So, with the basics, this will give you enough information to do your own research and make your own plans and things of that nature. So, um, with gardening, I started out gardening. My wife, she got a plant from her job, and it was a rosemary. So I didn't know anything about planting, and so one day I cut some of the rosemary. I didn't even know what that was, and she told me it was rosemary. So I cut some of it, and it smelled great. So I put it in. I started using it as seasoning. I normally make pizzas, so I would start putting in that, and just definitely sparked my interest. So with that, it kind of got my interest into starting a garden. So we tried. Well, after that, she really got disinterested. She was more focused on flowers, but for me, it was um, food and herbs and stuff like that. So I started buying seeds and started doing everything. And a lot of the things I've learned was trial by error. So you know um, it's a definitely an ongoing process. It's rewarding. It's definitely therapeutic. Depending on how big your garden is, or if you got you've you've grown from a garden to now you got a farm. Completely different setup. The principles still apply, but the work that it's involved, um, you know, um, grows. Now, when people talk about gardening in relation to you know, um, Gentiles call it SHTF, shit hits the fan. They call it the apocalypse or whatever. We know, looking at all of that through the lens of the Bible, it's called Jacob's trouble, because it's regarding Jacob. Um, and also called the Great Tribulation, but same thing. So with that, when they talk about, you see some various, you saw some YouTube videos, you saw some channels, people with storage and things like that. So a few things to note. I want to go over this precept, and definitely then we can get started. So this is this is Genesis chapter 41, and starting at verse 46. Now, to give the background, this is the story after Pharaoh got his dream. He could not interpret it, and Joseph came and gave him the vision, gave him the meaning of the vision. So after all this has happened, Joseph becomes second in command in Egypt now, which was a superpower at that time. Now, with starting at chapter 41, verse 46. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went out through all the land. And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. He gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. and the food of the field, which was round about every city, he laid up the same. So let's start right there. So during the 7 years of plenty, um, they built food storages around the city and stored up food in the cities. Now, if I was not part of the government or working for Egypt, and I was just, in the land, and I saw the government, because this is, Joseph is he's second in command, so this is the Egyptian government. First thing I would have said was, praying if I had wisdom at the time, depending what age, my age, but prayerfully if I would have had wisdom. First thing I would have said was, why is this government building up these food storages? And I'm sure, as the word got out, because it wasn't a secret. The word got out. Oh, this Hebrew had, was in second in command. He had a dream. Blah blah blah. I would have said, okay, if the government is willing to spend resources based off a dream, they have to believe it so much that they're acting on it. So as the prudent um, person, let me start storing too. And I'm sure it would have got out. Oh, there were 7 years of plenty. Then we're going to have a famine and blah blah blah. So I mean, I'm sure year one you see your crops growing exponentially, and then year two you see the same. You probably want to start taking heed to say, okay, what that dream that was given is true. So let me take heed. But as we can see, just based on the story, it was only the Egyptians, the government. Verse 49. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much until he left numbering, for it was without number. So they had so much food or so much corn. I mean, and then with corn, you'll learn with corn you can do a lot. You can make cornmeal. You can make it into flour, which is the meal. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. But I'm sure they also gathered everything else too. But it just says here, gathered corn as the sand of the sea. So now, during the 7 years, this is where faith comes in. He didn't have the dream. The dream was given to the Pharaoh, someone in position to do something about it. Now, Joseph had enough faith, or the Pharaoh had enough faith in Joseph to do something about it. So the same way, we read that in the book of James. By faith Noah built an ark, for he was moved with fear for things to come. So part of your preparedness, part of your preparations involves, I mean, that's faith. I mean, if you're preparing because you see something coming, or you've had revelation that something is coming. You see the signs, and instead of wasting your time making viral TikTok videos, um, you know, arguing on Twitter, um, you know, um, wasting your time with foolishness, you're preparing, because you know unlike Noah and Joseph, we don't have an exact time when this is going to happen, but we have enough signs. We can read the signs of the time to let us know that it's not a whole left. It's not a whole lot left. So um you know with this, Joseph, one, like we read in Proverbs 6, he's like the ant. He's become wise, and he gathered corn. He didn't watch porn. He wasn't wasting money. He wasn't buying fireworks. He wasn't drinking alcohol. He wasn't messing around, with the women. He was gathering corn. So, I mean, and again, it wasn't a dream he had. It was a dream that was told to him. So now, with that, we see this is a example of uh, gardening, or foods, part of the food storage, using food grown from the land. Now this is not, this is different in the fact that he can't go to the store and stock up like we do today. So of course this is the means that he did it. Now, part of the misconception of food preparation when you discuss gardening is, and this is more so for beginners, because someone who's had an established garden, or they have a farm, they have a pretty good system already, and they know how to can and preserve and things like that. So for beginners, we're going to go ahead and get into it because misconception is, you plant your seeds 6 weeks later, or, a couple of months later, you have, 200 pounds of potatoes and, you can feed your family. No, that's definitely not how it works. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. Some things, but it's good. I mean, it's great to learn this now, because when you start and if the power goes out and something goes wrong, or we're in Mr. Jacobs trouble, and you have that garden to sustain you, when you start to see several warning signs of nutrient deficiency or pest, or based on your based on you being diligent, you'll know how to attack those problems. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the basics. So um, now, number one, let me just go ahead and go through this one. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let me give me 1 second. So the number one most important thing, this is the definitely the most important thing, is choose the right plants. Okay. So a lot of crops grow differently in different locations. I know that kind of sounds like, common sense as we're just talking, but you really don't know how much that how that takes in place once you start growing. So whatever you think you want to grow in your area, just look it up and see what grows, see if it grows, good in your area, and see what the growing season is. So number one, choose the right plants. So for instance, I live in Houston, Texas. So that is zone 9. So when you look up, your area, just look up growing zone, and it'll show you a map that has like different layers of the United States. Zone 1 is typically like Maine and New York, and goes all the way down to zone 9. So I think like zone 9 is like Houston, Louisiana, the Gulf Coast. Okay, Florida is zone 9. Now zone 9 is hot slash tropical. Like we only get a few months of winter. Okay, so summer and spring are, I mean, not summer, spring and fall are very short. It's beautiful, but the majority of our year is hot and humid. So starting around late April to May 1st, all the way down to like October, the end of October, it's hot, very very hot. So the plants that the plants that grow the best here are citrus, sweet potatoes, tomatoes. They're doing pretty good. um, they hate the heat, but if you start early, you can get a good harvest. And after they die out because of the heat, the next growing season, those plants that are still there, they'll regrow, and they'll start to learn that they need to be more resistant. So um, that's why you want to recognize your growing season. So, for example, not only your growing season, um, with when you choose the right plants, um, you also want to know, this is also important, is when to grow that right plant. So, for instance, I was trying to grow lettuce, and I started growing lettuce in July. And when I planted, excuse me, when I planted the seeds, the plant grew really quickly and then died. They call that bolting. So it sprouted real quick and died. And I couldn't figure out why. It was getting water and everything. And then I did a simple Google search and found out that lettuce is a winter crop. They like it very cold, and cool weather, preferably cold, is not going to infect it, negatively. So um, do not try growing lettuce in the summer. And that simple Google search explained to me why my lettuce was dying in July when it is not meant for summer. So choose the right plants for your area. Some plants, again, some plants grow better than others. Strawberries, I've seen some people buy strawberries at the store in my city. I've bought them, and they do not do well in Houston, especially when it starts to get hot. So I've tried a couple of seasons to grow strawberries. I tried from seed, I tried from plants, and some people were successful. But again, if you're like in California or Oregon, um, it's beautiful. I mean, the more northern places, you can get away with it. So number one, choose the right plants, and when you choose the right plants, again, um, know what when you choose the right plants, you're gonna know. You're gonna start researching and discovering when to grow those plants. Okay, and what is the growing season for your area. So you could just look up what are the best plants for my city. Or just type in whatever city you live in, and then it'll plenty of bloggers, plenty of videos will give you a list. So there's one channel I watch on YouTube a lot. He's been growing for like forever. It's M.I. Gardner. It's just type in M.I. Gardner, all one word. He lives in Wisconsin. So when he's watching his videos, he's like, "Oh, these are the best plants to grow in September." And I'm reading, first couple of times I'm watching the video, I'm like, "What the hell? What the hell is he talking about?" Until I looked up his website and figured like, "Oh, he's in Wisconsin." So in Wisconsin, in September, the temperatures are very different than Houston, Texas. So whatever he was talking about in September in terms of growing, I had to start in November. My Gardener, he's a really good channel you want to watch. And the other one is Self Sufficient Me. He's a really good. He's in Australia, so his climate is more so what the zone 9 in the United States. So pretty much what he says is I just follow it exactly, and I get pretty good results. Now again, with all of this, you have to figure out why you're gardening. If you're gardening for therapeutic reasons, or if you're doing this for food survival, then you gotta have a different talk. So we're going to discuss some of the best foods to grow for food survival, but even then, these principles will still apply. So you can't say, "Oh, I want to grow food for survival," but and I want to grow potatoes, but you're not really learning about the grow zones or the best time to grow potatoes. I've tried potatoes in Houston, and they do best. I mean, where I live, between November and maybe I can't really count this past winter because it was pretty harsh. Um, Normally between November and January they do pretty good. We typically have a mild winter, so they do pretty good. But for my area, the best plant that grows the absolute best, and I will always grow these, and they're the easiest. They need the least amount of maintenance, and they just you plant them and you just water them occasionally and let them be. Is sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are very durable. They are very high in nutrients. You got your corn. I mean, you got your starches. You got your has a little bit of protein. It's got your carbohydrates. You can do a lot with it. Of course, with potatoes, you can do more, and they, but the sweet potatoes, if you don't mind, if you like sweet potatoes, those are the best to grow. So for my area, okay. Again, I don't know where you are, but I would look up if potatoes or sweet potatoes grow good in your area, and I would start growing those. If you're doing it for food storage and food survival, because again, potatoes, I mean, you can do a billion things with them. You can add a lot of variety. You can make it. You can when you can make it into a flour, and then from that you can make potato bread. You can do it. You can make vodka. It's a billion and one things you can do with potatoes. So if someone asked me what is the number one, what is the if I could grow one crop for food survival and I could have plenty of it, what would it be? I would hands down pick potatoes. Um, but potatoes in my area, it gets humid a lot, so I'm fighting a lot of fungus. Versus the sweet potatoes, I mean, they love the heat. The hotter it is, the better. They don't mind at all. So choose the right plants. Now, again, if you're growing for therapeutic reason or you just want to have fun or as a hobby, go right ahead, pick whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, again, this one is kind of go into what I said earlier. Know your zone. Those are your grow zones. Just type in grow zone for my city, or just type in a grow zone map of the U.S. and you'll see the different areas. It's pretty accurate, regarding for what where you live or whatever. So now with the with the you have your grow zones, you have your right plants. Now after you had all of that, you know you want to look up seeds. One second. Okay, sorry about that. You want to look up seeds. So some things you could do from how to start from seeds. So if you're looking at buying a bunch of seeds, look up how to germinate the seeds. Sometimes we think it's easy, and sometimes it is. But one place I would avoid getting seeds from is Walmart. If you got some from Walmart, go ahead and try to grow them. I've had some bad experiences with Walmart. They really don't germinate, and um, you know, those seeds right there, they've been genetically modified. So if you do get a crop, those seeds are not going to grow. So again, there was a big lawsuit. I'll post the video in the there's a video dealing with Monsanto. So with Monsanto, one thing that they were doing with these farmers is, if you had a contract with them, they would provide you the seed. This is how stupid and this is how wicked Babylon is. So they would provide you the seed. You as the farmer, you would grow it, and if you try to reuse, for instance, you grew some corn, and you saved some of the crops to go to seed, so you can plant the seed from that corn again, and just keep growing corn from that that part that you've separated. Monsanto would come and sue you. They would file a lawsuit and stop you from reusing the seeds from the crops that you grew, um, and because they said you got to keep buying seeds from us. So I don't remember what happened with that lawsuit. I have to look that up. It was a while ago when I heard about that. But yeah, so farmers were fighting Monsanto because they were buying seeds from Monsanto, and Monsanto. I mean, when they would, when the crop would grow, you'll learn some of these foods you can just let them keep growing, and they'll grow to seed, and then you'll collect the seeds from that, and then you can replant those seeds, which I do recommend to do. But I'll get to that later. But in that lawsuit, they were suing them, saying, "No, you can't do that. You have to keep buying seeds from us." So when if you order 100 seeds from us, for example, and you get 100 stalks of corn, you have to sell all 100 stalks. You can't save some of those for them to be used as seeds. So it was it's a mess, but you'll have some farmers. There are some farmers out there that have some really good seeds. Of course they're not Monsanto, so they're not worried about local farmers. I'll post those in the back chat for those. I'll post those links to those gardeners. They have really good seeds, and you can get those. So okay, so let's say let's go ahead and run down this. You pick the right plant for your area. Um, you've looked up your grow zone to see to see if it will thrive or die in your area, and made some changes, or you still want to be adventurous and try, which I recommend because you're going to learn a lot. um, you know you also learn your within your grow zone, learn the frost dates. So for instance, generally we know this, but we don't think about it until we start growing. Like, when is it expected to start getting colder, and how that would affect your plants. So, for instance, I was growing corn one time, and my first year, I had a really good crop. I mean, the corn was beautiful. It tasted great. I mean, all praises to the Father. But the next year, I tried the same time, and we had a pretty tough summer. Last summer was pretty bad. This year's bad too, but last year was. I mean, all my crops got starched except for the sweet potatoes. Everything got starched. I mean, scorched. I mean, it was a mess. But with the corn, no. So the first time with the first time with the corn, I had lots of success, and then the second time I got, I was like, okay, so let me just plant it again. So I planted it again without looking at the frost dates. So of course, corn does not grow well in, um, January. Doesn't matter what kind of winter you're having. It just, it likes it. It's more hot and, more hot and warm weather. So when you buy your seeds, it'll tell you when the best time to grow. And they're pretty accurate. It's not like, well, screw them. They're just trying to, Esau's trying to screw me over. No, it's not. It's just, that's what you're going to expect. You're not going to grow watermelon if you live in Connecticut in, December. It's just not going to happen. Now, when let me put that with a caveat. Depends if, when I'm talking about this, I'm typically talking outdoors in a normal garden. Okay. So we're going to get into some creative spaces on how to. You got a small space. You want to do more indoors. You want to do a micro garden with just herbs in your kitchen. There's a billion and one ways to do that. So, but learn your frost dates. And again, when you get these your seed packs, you're gonna learn some. You're gonna learn some. When you get your seed packs, you're gonna like they'll tell you like this is the best time to grow it. August and May through August. They'll tell you on that. So you have that. So let's go through this. You went through all the steps. You got your seeds. You're ready to grow. You're ready to go. Now with that, let's talk about spacing. So I don't know if some people are living in apartments. Some people have houses. Some people bought some land. I'm going to start with the smallest thing possible. Let's say you're living in an apartment and you just have your balcony, okay, and you have a balcony. One thing you could do is you can go to Amazon and look up grow bags. Just type in grow bags. Look up 5 gallon or 10 gallon grow bags. They're reusable. They're made from like this fiber or whatever. I can't remember what it is. Um, you know, and I'm looking at right now. It's a pack of five 5 gallon grow bags with thickening non-woven plant material, $16.99. So you can get these grow bags, and there you go. I've grown quite, excuse me, quite a bit of stuff from these grow bags. I've grown potatoes. I've grown corn. Corn grows really well in these grow bags, and that's the thing. That's part of the misconception about gardening or farming. Well, farming is different. Let me stick to gardening. Is gardening is that you need a lot of land. Like, oh, I posted some pictures about my garden. People are like, oh, I can't wait till I get the Most High bless me with some land. I'm like, I don't know if these pictures are deceptive, but I don't have a lot of land at all. I mean, I live in a townhouse, and so the area that I have is very small. And just learning how to manipulate space with grow bags and pots and things like that, you can get a lot of uh, you can get a lot of things grown in your space. So grow bags are one way to get that done. It's an excellent way. I mean, you can reuse them too, so they're not disposable. They last forever. I've seen some people on YouTube use plastic bags, the ones that you get from the store. They poked some holes in it to make sure that the roots and the soil and water was aerated and it was well drained. And that's what these bags do. The moisture does not, the water does not stay in. I mean, it retains it, but it does not get soggy. It gets a lot of aeration. So these are a good option. I would highly recommend them. So you have your grow bag and you're growing. Now, some of the things you want to do is soil. Now, with that, now if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions of what I've said so far, feel free to raise your hand because it's quite a bit of information to cover, and I can answer your question related to this topic. Okay, to the basics. Well, if you don't know if your question is basic, just ask, and I can give you some guidance. So you got your grow bags. Another thing to look at before I get into soil, these are things called raised beds. These are another ways. Just type in raised beds. Amazon has some. I try going to Home Depot and all those places. They don't have any. Raised beds are another good option. Just type in raised garden bed, and you'll see some options on Amazon. There's different ways you can once you're done with the crop, you can remove the soil from it and move it to a new place, whatnot. So, and the thing about I like personally about the grow bags is especially when you're first starting out. Again, this is for beginners and the basics. The grow bags, if you when you're starting growing and you don't you're just putting the bag there. Knowing the position of the sun, depending on what you're growing, is again part of the basics. So with the grow bags, if you're growing, for instance, I have what is that? Collard greens I'm growing, and in the summer they hate the summer. I mean, they absolutely hate it. In the high of the day, they get stressed and they start to like droop, and then when the sun passes at night, they sprout back up. But in the wintertime, when we had that big storm in Houston, I didn't put them in the garage or anything like what I did some of the other plants. I left them out, and snow got in the the grow bags and everything, and they loved it. I mean, they were just thriving. They didn't flinch one bit because of the snow, and it was what 32 degrees or below. It was like in the teens. So again, collard greens, period. They love the winter. Beans, they love the cold weather. But the point is, with the summer, they hate the summer, so I'm able to take the grow bag and just lift it and move it into the shade when the sun comes out, and they're getting indirect sunlight versus them being stuck in the ground because I planted them in the ground. So that's the benefit. That's another benefit I do like about the grow bags is that, for one, you can reuse them. They don't take up a lot of space. Lots of plants can grow in them. I've grown potatoes. I've grown sweet potatoes. I've grown corn. I haven't tried tomatoes in them. I mean, I have other spaces for the tomatoes, and I've just reused those bags. So, um, you know, uh, raised beds, grow bags are very good options for those who have limited space and a limited budget. And especially when you start buying the soil, now if you're growing in ground, or you want to dig up some of your soil from your ground to put that in your grow bag, that's an option. But um, here again in Houston, you dig 5 feet, you're hitting oil or water or clay. Got a lot of clay, so I bought some soil, which with that. So let's go ahead. I mean, let's focus on this for a minute. So you have your grow bags, you have your raised beds. Those are good options. Now, if you're starting from a smaller space, let's say you just don't want to do all that, you just want to grow herbs. Pots are a good option. I mean, if you're growing rosemary, if you're growing basil, they don't need a lot of space. I mean, they really don't. Oregano, the herbs, they do very well in pots. So again, you don't need 3 acres if you're that's your focus. They do have some kits on Amazon, micro gardens, like the little micro garden kit. You can just type those in, and those can be kind of expensive though. So I would, again, if you have that budget, that's what you want to spend on that. You can, you know, that's your prerogative. Um, so but just the pots. I mean, I think you that's more than enough for the herbs. Okay. Now, again, when you're looking up any of this stuff, you want to look up your growing season, your growing zone. Typically lettuce will grow anywhere. It's just, it has a shorter growing season than in the south than it does in the north. Okay, for example. So um, you have your you've chosen your plant, you've got the right garden season, you got the right seed supplier. Now let me go back to the seed suppliers. Walmart, stay away from. Lowe's and Home Depot, they're pretty good. I mean, they're not bad. They're pretty good. Um, but the supplier I got is from, I think it's Urban Seeds. Um, I think Urban Seeds. Let me look at it real quick. Yes, no, it's called UF Urban Farmer Seeds.com. Um, these guys, I mean, the germination rate is like 90%. It's they've they stay. I mean, I don't know if they're sold out, but when they get a new batch of seeds for that season, I mean, they sell out pretty quickly. So here they go, 100% satisfaction guaranteed, 100% non-GMO seed. So I can vouch for them. They're pretty good. Um, you know, so those are the guys where I get mine from. I don't shop from them anymore because I got quite a bit of seeds and I need to focus on what I got. But for instance, on their website, they have over 100 tomato varieties. So one thing I did not know that tomatoes. There are over 75,000 different tomatoes in the world, varieties. I did not know that until I started growing. But these guys have a good amount of them. So you can see the pictures what they have. You want to grow. They got black cherries, tomatoes, pears, pear tomatoes, whatever. They got you covered. So um, you know, so you've chosen the plant you want to grow. You've chosen the seeds, um, and you started gardening. Um, Now you've chosen your space. Well, let's focus on the seeds real quick. Now, some of the seeds that you get from the store, I'll say from the store. So let's say, for instance, you've bought a tomato, okay, and you slice up the tomato and you see the seeds. Now you can try to grow those seeds. Um, I've tried. I've had some success. Um, I've tried to regrow some of the food we've gotten from the stores. Typically, when I do that, I do it from the potatoes. I just put them in some water and let them sprout or sprout vines, and then you plant the vines in the garden. So you could do that with some of the food you purchase. Some of it may germinate, some of it may not. The most success I've had are the with ginger. So ginger, I grow those. I mean, I leave them on the kitchen counter. They get warm. They love the heat too. Then they start to sprout, and then I just put those in the garden. I just put those in the grow bag and grow those. I've had some really good success with ginger and turmeric using that method. The things I bought from the store, I bought some for consumption and then some to try to grow to seed, and has some pretty good success. So instead of just going out and buying a bunch of seeds right now from everything, you can buy some seeds. I wouldn't recommend that too, but try to regrow some of the foods that you've bought from the stores. You may have some success, you may not. So not everything has been, bathed in, retardation spray so that you can't grow it. Sometimes the stores are just trying to restock their shelves. They don't care about any of that. Some of your larger producers, typically Walmart, they kind of have some of that to some of the crops because again they don't control 100% of everything that comes in their store. These are farmers. These are some are local, some are more regional, and they're not really into that. But some are. So again, um, and one thing I will tell you, when you go to like Whole Foods or something, don't always, when you go to the organic section, thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get the organic potatoes to regrow those, and I'm gonna use those as to to go to seed or to use those for seed. They're not always, those don't always germinate. So I've tried that a few times and I wasted some money because they never went to seed or they never grew. And this was the organic section at Whole Foods. So I'm like, what the hell? But and then again, I got a sweet potato from Walmart. that, I put it in some water, and, it was about a month before it started to spud. And then, I got vines all over the place. So that is one good method to save on seeds. But I would definitely try it. Okay. So, you have your two ways to get your seeds: from your food supply at the grocery store, or from these websites, or Home Depot or Lowe's, things like that. You got your garden bed ready. You bought your raised beds, or you got a plot or your area you want to use, or you got your grow bags. Now you want to get to soil. So here's the thing. Uh, when you start to research your plant, you want to look up. Um, you want to look up the. It's this thing called NPK. So NPK. The N it stands for NPK stands for nitrogen, potassium. I mean, sorry, nitrogen. That's the N. Phosphorus. That's the P. And potassium. That's the K. And why is the potassium K? It's because it comes from the Latin word potash, and I think something with to do with the K. That's how they spelled it or expressed it or whatever. But it comes from, it's Latin. So NPK. Now, what is NPK? NPK is the ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that your specific plant needs to thrive. Okay, so NPK for corn is going to be different from, let's say, potatoes. Okay, so let's just look up the NPK. So, um, nitrogen. So you can kind of, when you look up your NPK, um, let me just read this quick blurb right here. So the NPK, so let's back up a little bit. So your NPK, that's your nutrient ratio for your plants. So if you look up fertilizers, just look up vegetable fertilizers, you'll see some numbers like 555 or 574, or something like that. That's a ratio of nitrogen 5, phosphorus 5, and potassium 5. Okay, so you can get some soil. You could, when you get your soil from these places, it'll have the NPK on there. I really can't recommend which brand. Um, you know, um, they're all. You're gonna have to amend your soil anyway and add fertilizer to that specific plant. So it's okay to buy cheap soil, but not too cheap. Not something you see 10 bags for $1. Now something's wrong with that. So a decent price of bag of soil is like $10 or something. So you'll see that some of them will have the NPK on there. It'll say, "Oh, fertilize your crops for 9 months." I would be skeptical with that. So when you're researching your crop, look as you're looking it up, look up the NPK for that specific crop. Not all of them are different or that different. So if the NPK is slightly different, um, you know you'll be okay. Now with the NPK, the nitrogen. Okay, what that does is the nitrogen. Everybody needs nitrogen in the beginning. Nitrogen is when it starts to sprout and it's kind of growing grass. So, for instance, if you're growing corn, it'll look like grass in the beginning, and then it'll start to sprout, and you get your stem and then your stalks. But corn loves lots of nitrogen. So I've seen some people use NPK of 25 and 10 or something like really high in nitrogen. So especially in the beginning. Now, with that, you want to be careful with your. Let's use the converse. For potatoes, since it's a tuber, so um, anything that grows underground is called a tuber. So that's your potatoes, sweet potatoes, your yucca, So now when you get to the P, I mean, so the nitrogen in the beginning, everybody needs nitrogen because it needs energy from the sun to, start to develop. Okay. Now, when you get to the phosphorus is the plant's ability to use and store energy, which is the photosynthesis. So it is also needed to help plants grow and develop normally. Okay. So, you know, you got to have that. Now, with the potassium, um, that it helps the plant's ability to resist disease. Plays an important role in increasing crop yields and overall quality. Potassium also protects the plant when the weather is cold or dry, strengthening its root system and preventing wilt. Now, so again, now this is I'm glad we're going here. So you can start to realize, or you can start to when you're growing your plant, for instance. Now, again, why this is important is because if you do not give your plant the proper nutrients, it is not going to grow. So, when you start to see your plants turning weird colors or whatever, or it doesn't quite look right, it's probably a nutrient deficiency. So, for instance, um, what is it? What is that? Tomatoes. Okay, so my tomato plants, or even when you start growing tomatoes, in the beginning, they're growing, they're sprouting, and then they'll start to like the leaves or underneath the leaves will turn purple. Now, what that means is it's a nutrient deficiency. Now, not every plant will turn purple underneath its leaves. So far, I've seen only tomatoes. Excuse me. So that was a sign to give it some nutrients, give it some fertilizer. Yeah, you're giving it water. Yeah, you're giving it sunlight, but it needs the NPK. So, and even then, I was using soil that I bought, but still, it's not it's not enough. So, for something that small, you can just look up how to administer fertilizer to a seedling because it was still in the seedling stage. It wasn't a mature plant. In the seedling stage, you don't want to put a lot. You want to dilute whatever, if you're using liquid fertilizer, dilute it with a little bit more water, stuff like that. And then, I did, and after 3 days or 4 days later, it went back to normal green and it kept growing. So, some plants, for instance, corn, you'll start to see like leaf burn. It'll like kind of wilt at the tip, and you may think, it's just hot, and then you'll spray it down with some water and go inside and watch TV. No, it's telling you I need some nutrients, like I need some NPK. So again, for instance, corn in the beginning it needs lots of nitrogen, and as it starts to mature, you will need to kind of change the balance of the NPK to where the P and the K is higher, because now it's gone from growing to now it's developing fruit. Okay, and it needs more of it needs a different ratio of the P and the K to get that done. So potatoes, it needs more of a K. It needs a higher K. It needs higher potassium because those are tubers. The fruit in the development is growing underneath the soil. So um, you could get away with. I've tried it a few times because I was being lazy, just being honest. I used a good all around fertilizer, like a 777, or on some crops I did a 20-20-20. I think I did 20-20-20 on the corn, and it did pretty well. Um, but some crops are going to make you pay for that. If you're, some crops are going to make you pay for that laziness, because it's saying, yeah, you gave me a lot of nitrogen. I mean, yeah, you gave, for instance, I did this with, I think, potatoes. Yeah, I was lazy and I just put 20-20-20, and it said in like on the outside, like looking out, like the leaves were, they were big, the stalks were big, they were, it didn't have any disease, which, we'll get into later. I mean, it looked nice. And then when I went to go um, harvest, the potatoes were really small. I mean, they were like tiny. I think we used it for a soup or something, but I put all that effort into growing that, fighting all that disease, um, fighting all that fungus. On the outside, I mean, it looked beautiful, but the production was very small. because I was, kind of took a shortcut to say, I don't feel like changing all this fertilizer for these crops. Let me just use all around 2020. And, that's what happened. So for that, for the tubers, anything that grows underground, carrots, onions, what is that? Ginger. Just look up tubers. Everything that grows underground is considered a tuber. You need a higher. I can't remember which one it is, a P or a K. When it starts to get mature, right before harvest, or not so much before, like in the middle between when you first started and it's growing, it's ready for harvest. You want to start getting that P and that K higher, so the tubers can start growing bigger. So that's one thing you'll notice. Now, also with that, with your crops, which you'll notice when you talk about nutrient deficiency, um, one reason you want to make sure that they have a good amount of nutrients is because of pest. So any plant that is nutrient deficient, its immune system is weak, and the pest will eat it alive. So we'll get into pests for a little bit, but it'll eat it alive. So, if you have your NPK, um, you know, again, I really can't. Whenever you go through this roadmap I'm giving you, look up the NPK for this, and it'll tell you. It's just three numbers. You can start out with an all around fertilizer. Now, you can start out with an all around fertilizer, something like 555 or 777, something general like that. But as it starts to get mature, you kind of want to start focusing on fruit production and focusing on the P and the K. So typically, I fertilize mine once a week. Some of them once every other week, but for the best production I've seen on a continuous basis is once a week. And I might mix up the fertilizer sometimes, and instead of like using the commercial fertilizer, um, I'll use like something. I bought this thing called Liquid Fish, and it smells exactly as it sounds. You can get it from Amazon. It's like natural fertilizer, so the NPK is low, but it has lots of other nutrients, and it's more natural. I mean, it's like, again, it smells exactly as it sounds. Liquid Fish, so it's got everything in there that the plant needs. Again, the NPK is low, but it has a lot of other natural nutrients that'll benefit your plant. So again, after you administer Liquid Fish in your garden, if you're doing it inside, do not use Liquid Fish. Telling you right now, do not use Liquid Fish. Um, you will regret it. But I've done it outside, and immediately you need a shower. So, um, but it's a good way to mix it up, because it does get some, the commercial stuff we buy, um, trying to do a compost and all that and get natural manure. I mean, most of us don't live in those areas to where you can get access to natural manure. And if you live in an apartment, the last thing you want is that type of smell. And the commercial fertilizer, there's some good. When I say commercial, there's some good ones out there that use a lot less chemicals. So and it's just as good. So you just got to do some research on that. So Liquid Fish is a good one. You can write that down. I'll put that in the chat as to the link. But again, do not use that in your house. Um, you will regret it. And then when I bought it, I mean, um, when I bought it, and I bought it off of Amazon, and I used it once for outside, and it was, it was really strong. And then I was checking the reviews, and someone said, "Yeah, this should have been a warning not to use this in the house." And I'm sitting there thinking, when you open the container, you did not smell that and think this would be a bad idea to put it in your house. But anyway, so you got your NPK, um, that is for fruit production and um, fighting disease and strengthening against pests. Now, with pests, it is not going to be, oh, I put in NPK, it's healthy, but the pests are still coming. Yeah, pests are going to come. That's part of it. The key is knowing which pests are in your garden, and how to attack them. So once you know which pests are in your garden, you'll know how to attack them. For mine, sometimes it's aphids. If you can get some ladybugs, they'll kill the aphids. What you could do if you don't have a lot of ladybugs or you don't want to order some ladybugs, you can get your water hose and give it a really power spray down and get the aphids off, and do that for 2 or 3 times. And by the third time, the aphids will kind of leave and they get the point. But you got to be consistent with that. You can't just do it once and get them all off, um, and then expect them to, leave your plants alone. You could do that, and here's the thing: if you do that by the third time and they still keep coming back, um, get some neem oil, neem NEEM oil. You can put that in a little spray bottle or the hose, or something to administer that. Mix it with some water, mix a little bit of soap, and then spray down your leaves. Um, you know, um, Reason why you want to put some soap, because it'll help the neem oil stick to the plants. The plants don't mind, but the aphids and the pests will hate it. So those typically go for like they'll typically the aphids, from what I've seen, typically attack your greens and your herbs, basil and things like that. They're a monster to those. But again, if you don't want to use any type of oil or any type of, you don't want to use water, ladybugs, if you can order some online, they'll mail them to your house, and then you just put your ladybugs in the garden, and they'll give the aphids the business. So other pests, you just have to look it up. So when you start to see, I guess the most common pest, the ones that eat up your greens, are the snails. So you can use eggshells or sand, anything gritty, to put around the base of the plant or around the pot or whatever. If you have frogs in your garden, leave them in the garden. We made the mistake 2 summers ago. We had two big frogs in our garden at night. Them things were huge, and they would come out in the garden, and we were trying to get rid of them. Then this summer, the frogs didn't show up, and now we got snails. And then when I looked it up again, I'm still learning, how to get rid of snails. And they're like, "Oh, if you got frogs, leave them." And I'm looking like an idiot trying to get rid of the frogs, but no, at night they eat the snails. So if you got frogs in your garden, praise the Lord, because they're going to clean house from a lot of pests that are destroying your garden. They don't attack anything. They might take a tomato. I don't know if it's low enough, but for the most part, they're going after the pest. So if you got frogs, leave them in your garden. Um, you know. So when you get to that, you know, you go through this whole process. You got your harvest. You go through all these steps. There's still going to be ups and downs within this. It's fun. It's definitely rewarding. But I just right now I want to cover some of the best vegetables to grow for long-term storage. Okay, because some people are doing this for survival. And again, so when we go into survival, your garden should be supplemental to your food storage. So you should not start a garden in lieu of your food storage. Okay, it should be supplemental. Now, if you're a farmer and you've got acres and you've been doing this for 10 generations, there's no reason for you to be here because you already got a good system going. But part of that misconception, as I said earlier, is the I'm gonna fight off the famine of Jacob's trouble by growing a garden, and it's going to produce, 10,000 pounds of potatoes, and it very well might. The Lord may have favor on you in so much of a way that might happen. So I mean, I'm definitely not saying it won't, but I'm just looking at it from a natural. I'm definitely having faith in my garden. I mean, my sweet potatoes, they do well every year, but um, you know, in addition to your food storage, because again, looking at Joseph in Genesis 41, they didn't have stores to go to. They didn't have, Amazon. They didn't have, number 10 cans. They didn't have all this stuff, to go through to store food. They had, their gardens. So that was their main source of food. So of acquiring food. So now, we have to adjust to, the times that we live in. And, your food supply from your garden should be supplemental. So let's say if you do, you got some stuff growing, just kind of going through a quick list of things to grow that are the best, for long-term storage. And again, when I say this long-term storage, it also comes into the preparation of how you prepare some of this stuff. So it's not, I grew a big bushel of apples and now just, leave them in my closet and, wait for Jacob's trouble. No, no, you have to store them, freeze dry, dehydrate, canning. That's what people, typically do when they think of, long-term food storage. Um, if you are financially able enough to create a root cellar, just look up root cellar. It's like, it's a cellar, but it's underground. Well, that's a cellar. Duh. It's a cellar because it's very cool. So that keeps, that helps preserve the foods, which kind of makes a natural refrigeration. So some people have, root cellars that where they do their food storage. If you don't have a cellar, or, you can. There's some creative ways on YouTube on how to create a root cellar using a trash can and a shovel. And I saw a video of a guy doing one, and I really didn't want to do one because, based in my area where I live, it's tons of clay. So, and this is, they live in a townhouse, so I don't know what pipes I'm hitting or whatever, but he lived in a farm. He didn't have a root cellar, but he showed a very efficient way on how to create a small root cellar, just putting the potatoes in a, new aluminum trash can. So, um, those are that's what I'm talking about, long-term survival. You have to figure out how you're going to prepare this food for storage. Typically, the most common way we hear is canning. Those are the preserves and the mason jars and things like that. And even then, there's a certain way you have to do it. You don't just stuff the food in the can and close it tight. No, there's a way you have to preserve it. And if you're going to go that route, I would suggest doing that now because there is going to be some trial and error. You're going to go through all the steps, and then you're going to look at your cans 2 months later and see the some spoilage, because things happen. So you have to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. So I would go ahead and if that's the route you're taking, go ahead and do that now. So real quick, let's go over the things that are designed for long term that grow the best for long term storage. Potatoes, number one, without a doubt. Again, and they're cheap for considering the price. If you want to, what I would do, what I've done is I would buy some potatoes, and then as they start to spud, I would go ahead and plant them outside, and then cook the rest. So potatoes need to be stored in a cool, dark, dry location. Make sure you only keep the unblemished ones. When potatoes are stored, when properly stored, they can last between 4 to 6 months. Now, and with that, let's say you grow potatoes, you're ready to harvest. So again, you want to look up on how to harvest your crops. So for potatoes, the skin is very sensitive. Is very sensitive. So when you pull them out of the ground and you start, yes, you can touch them, but if they start bumping into stuff and start to get bruised, they'll rot very quickly. So that's why you have to cure them for a few days and let the skin harden up and let them dry out for a little bit before you can. Of course, you can eat them raw, you can eat them fresh, but if you're talking about storing them, there's a way to harvest them. So look up whatever you want to grow. Look up the full growing guide on how to grow your particular crop. So between M.I. Gardner on YouTube and Self Sufficient Me, those two videos. I mean, whatever crop you're looking at on those two videos, they'll they'll take care of you. So potatoes, a good one for long-term storage. Sweet potatoes, the same thing. Winter squash. It's a lot of things you can do with winter squash. So make sure you cure your winter squash and pumpkins in a dry area. It's best that they're kept at temperatures between 50 and 55 degrees. There are many ways to store winter squash, but most homesteaders, those are people living off the land, keep them on a basement shelving. Some varieties, such as Blue Hubbard and Butternut, can last up to 6 months. We tried Butternut. It does last, but again, it was store bought, so it lasts quite a bit, but it'll start to the flavor, just like with anything, will start to wear. But another one is apples. Now, again, this is all depends on storing properly. So, whatever crop you decide, look up how to harvest, and if you're looking for long-term storage, look up how to can and how to properly store this crop. So you have apples, you have cabbages, onions is a good one, garlic is a good one, and again, depending on the type of garlic, rutabagas, carrots, pears, parsnips, dried beans. We talked about that last week in terms of food storage. Rice and dried beans are a good one. We really don't have rice paddies in the U.S., so that'd be more buying the bags for the food storage. But beans, if you grow those can last for quite a while. Beets. So it's a pretty good list of vegetables to that you can use for emergencies. Now, with that, again, you want to um, make sure that you prepare properly. So again, if you're doing canning or shell root cellar or something like that, and then you could do it those ways. So hopefully, this was beneficial. I didn't want to go too long. Let me know, please, if anyone has any questions about the basics of gardening. Let me know and I can kind of address them. I just kind of did a very broad overview. And again, depending, I could do if you wanted to do one on tomatoes, it would probably take the same amount of time just on tomatoes, because each plant. That's one thing I did learn. Each plant needs its own individual regiment. So whether it's potatoes, corn, whatever, everyone needs its own special attention. So Ben, I'll pass it over to you. And if anyone has any questions regarding this topic, please let me know.
Um, hey, Salaki King. It was I think you did a brief overview on the news just about regarding and I don't know if you mentioned this. I kind of jumped out for a second about rainwater. I know you said it's a lot of states that don't allow for the collection. They give tickets and things like that. Could you just remind us just in reference of how, because I know you said you still collect it. Well, you don't collect it, but you don't, so we don't want to advise people to do that if it's not legal. But what's the beneficial of rainwater compared to just using any other water for your gardening or your plants?
Man, I'm gonna be honest, not much. There's not much difference. I mean, I guess rainwater would be a little bit cleaner, but and I use that. I mean, and the reason why I say not much is because you got the chemtrails in the sky. So I mean, and then you got jets flying over. So I don't know how true this is. There was an article. Not an article. I read a book a very long time ago about about like health and things like that, foods and stuff like that. And in the book, again, he said that they tested women's breast milk, and every woman had some trace of jet fuel in her breast milk. So, and that's because we breathe in as planes are flying by. Again, I don't know how true that claim was, but I didn't follow up on it. But I mean, that was like almost that was like 10 years ago. So, not much difference, to be honest with you, because I mean, the air is polluted. So, but the air doesn't have chlorine in it and fluoride. So, that we know of. So, if you want to store, I mean, again, the whole thing about, if you missed the news, the issue about rainwater is that it's illegal in some states to store rainwater. So, the most things that could happen to you is you'll get a ticket. You're not going to jail for, storing rainwater. I mean, our people might. I mean, we've seen some pretty strange things in Babylon, but you could use your rainwater and then water your. I mean, the thing is, if you're getting rainwater, the rain is going to water the plants anyway. So I'm glad you brought that out because that is a misconception too. So let's say you have you water your plants early in the morning or at night, whatever the regimen is. It's not recommended to do it excuse me. It's not recommended to do it during the day at the height of the day because it's hot and it's going to stress out the plants because they're trying to drink the water and feed and process at the same time, protect themselves or lower their activity because of the sun. So plants do their growing at night. So while we're asleep, the plants are growing. So, if you can feed them in the morning and it'll store the water and then use it at night, or you can feed them at night and right before late night, they'll start to use it. So if you're on that regiment, whatever it is, and then it rains, you're like, oh, it's been raining for 3 days. I don't need to water my plants. No, no, no. After it stops raining, go back ahead and start watering your plants the same way, even though it just rained, because you don't know if your plants got sufficient amount of water because the wind could be blowing, it could be on and off, a lot of things could be going on. And one time I did that, and my plants were dying, and I'm like, what the hell? It just got finished raining. And then I did a Google search, and it was like, oh, because your plants are used to the regimen of water that you give it, and it's been raining, but they haven't necessarily got the same amount that they would get if you gave it to them. So keep doing it, even though it's raining, unless you just had a monsoon and it's been flooding, then they've gotten enough. So with the rainwater, not much difference. If it's raining, then they're going to get fed anyway. But the city water I use, and they still do pretty well. I mean, even though we know it's got fluoride and God knows what else in it. So not much difference. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, King, absolutely. Yeah, some people go overboard. I seen one person buying bottled water for their plants. Those are some high class plants. So I just thought that was a question that was posed after you had talked about it on the news. So definitely a great insight.
And that is just stupid for many reasons. Because again, if Jacob's trouble hits, I mean not if, when it hits, and you have been doing that, when it comes time for and the water supply is shut off, and the only water you're going to get is from the rain, um, then it's gonna like your plant's gonna like, what the hell is this? And then it's still gonna die and wither and whatever, blah blah blah. So it's good to have them on that city water because when it does rain or they get cleaner water, it's like, oh wow, this is great. But that's kind of like you have this very strict specific diet, not because it's medical or you want to eat healthy, but just because you want to be stuck up. So I had some friends at the beginning of the pandemic, they were mocking and scoffing, and they were like, oh, we don't have food at Costco's or Whole Foods is out of food. I'm like, guys, I just came from Walmart. They had plenty of food, and they did. I mean, but I'm like, they got. I just went to the store. They got plenty of food at Walmart, and they're in the text or the chat talking about, oh, I would die before I eat Walmart food, and someone else was scoffing like, yeah, Walmart food? Are you kidding me? Blah blah blah. So I'm like, told my wife about it, and she was like, what? What the hell? Like, what the hell's wrong with them? What the hell you mean Walmart food? Like, it's food. Like, of course we're talking about quality. Yes, of course, there's a different quality, but even then, we're talking, pandemic, food shortages, and you're talking about famine. And I assure you, everyone here with these snooty diets, and I gotta have, not 2% milk, but it has to be 1.95% milk, or I just can't, I just can't deal. I'm just gonna have a bad day. All that shit's gonna go out the window once Jacob's trouble kicks off, because what you got, and that whole I don't eat that. These kids are gonna be in for a rude awakening because that's it. And you some of these parents got these spoiled kids, and they're not weaning them off this. That mentality is gonna have a very hard time adjusting. Um, you know, it's just going to be madness. And so, yes, I mean, if you can afford to eat healthier, of course. I mean, it's not so much in where you buy; it's um, the brands. Of course, some brands are just cheap, but it's more in your selection and knowing that in a case of emergency, I may not I may, I almost certainly, without a doubt, will have to adjust my diet. So I posted a video about how to process locusts in the video in the chat. So how to, when you catch locusts, they are permissible according to the Bible. It showed that some guy in the woods showed you how to properly, uh, take the legs off, take the head off, and eat them, cook the meat. So that whole, I ain't eating that, is going to go out the window. So it's going to be sad for some. So um, did that answer your question?
Con, that and more. And I'm
Okay.
also and I'm also taking notes of Leo's triggers. We know that of course the vaccine and now snooty eaters. So those are Leo's triggers. You know, so
Nah,
we got
man.
that.
It really draws me to no end. It's like, okay, I understand health. I completely understand health reasons. I mean, that's that's nothing you can do about that. But no, I'm not going to eat that because that just came from Walmart. Like Walmart is a store. It does not, when you see great value, that's just that they got a license from Kellogg's to use cornflakes, and they just put great value on it. That's all that's happened. Um, you know, but yeah, that attitude is going to go out the window very quickly. So, but does anyone have any questions on the basics of gardening? Anything that I did not cover that you were wondering about? Anything that I did cover that I may have went too fast over or didn't clarify? Please go ahead and raise your hands now.
Okay. Of course, I'll close with if anybody don't have any questions, I'll close with I think I had two precepts just in reference to you know gardening because this is an important value in these times. Like Leo said, it shouldn't be really something that you're dependent on, but something that helps as a supplement. Something that can add to your your inventory or your stock, but not something that your household is relying on. We have a lot of people, unless you have a farm or something like that, but people with just these gardens and things like that, it's a little extra benefit and it'll help. Um, but it's something that it should be done in these times, as we know that uh, a lot of places we live, if you go to like you said, to Walmart, you see a lot of shelves not being restocked, and it's not for a particular reason that item is just out. It's just they're not being restocked. So the famine is coming. We will experience another lockdown. It will come, and this is not just trying to scare people. It's something that is being shown on our news every day. We report the news, so we know. So it's good to prepare. You have to prepare. That's what everything is about. These classes are not just because Leo has the time and he wants to brag about his gardening skills. This is for preparation for our people. Um, it's the precept I wanted to go to is Proverbs Salakia, Proverbs 28 and 19. And it says, "He that tilleth his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that followeth after vain persons shall have poverty enough." Right? And it's a lot of vain people and vain ideas that everything is opening up, so I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to save up. I don't need to stock. And you know um Leo always goes to the precept about the ant, old thou sluggard. So you know this is the time of temptation more than ever, just to not do it. It's middle of summer. you know uh Everything is opening up, people going back to work. Why do I have to do this? It looks like everything is going well. And that's usually when you know you get into a comfort zone and then shit hits the fan. So this is the time more than ever to be stocking up, to be taking inventory of the things that you have and how you prepare in the times of you don't prepare in the times of famine. You prepare before. You don't prepare in winter. You prepare in summer. You prepare in the cooler the warmer season, and you so that when the winter come, as meaning all hell breaking loose, you would have enough to get through. I got one more. Salakia. uh it's the book of Luke, uh 14, and I'm starting at 28. It says, for which of you intended Salakia, for which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it, lest happily after he hath laid down the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. So, you know, um, a lot of our people we go out and we buy we buy seeds, we buy the plants, the little bases, we buy the soil, and we put it in there and we don't do nothing after that. You know what I'm saying? We let it sit outside and it dies. And so many people houses I go to and I just see the little plant thing out there, or and it's just like it's a plant cemetery. You know what I'm saying? This is something, if you get into, you got to follow through with it. So it doesn't take a whole lot of work, but it does take work. It does take a little bit of dedication. It does take applying yourself to do so, and you will reap the reward at the end of it. So, like I said, brother Leo, for anybody that follows him on IG, you can see that a lot of these things he does, and he displays it for us to see as well. I myself have taken it up a bit, by starting myself to buy these things, so that it can be something that I'm not a person that eats out. So of course I want these things for for home use and to add to my already inventory. So it's important to take a little pride in these things, to do it and put out a little effort to so it can add some add some value to your household. Basically with that I yield. If nobody have any questions, we're going to close out. um Brother, you
Real
have
quick.
something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing I posted, like my garden is, I mean, it's small compared to like what you see on Instagram and all this other stuff. But one thing I've learned is a few things I've learned. I mean, and I don't post it to brag. It's just I really want our people to be self sufficient. Like we really don't need Esau for a damn thing. So especially if we're growing our own food, like that's one thing my granddad taught me. He said if you can, if you can feed your family independent of the white man, like there's nothing he can do to you. Like if you can, provide outside of his, system, basically. Paraphrasing, he used some other choice words, but if you can feed your family, so literally feeding your family, growing your own food is self sufficiency. So again, seeing someone else's garden or gardens like encouraged me. So people start their own. I love seeing our people grow their own stuff. I love seeing our people farmers, just being independent from Babylon, because again, that's one thing people talk about, losing their job and this and that, and like if you have the skills to um, get your own food or create your own food, and you're confident in that, and you have the Most High, like there's not much fear. Like there's really nothing you could. I mean, with that fear, just kind of like yeah, whatever. Like sure. So but it's more for encouraging our people to get started. That's it, and to answer any questions that people have. So you know, but yeah, with that I yield, man. I see some people taking notes and posting them online. It's really encouraging. I'm glad this is beneficial to some of y'all. Hopefully to everyone. If you we can go ahead and close out if anyone doesn't have any questions. Ben, I'll turn it to you to close us out. Oh, we have a hand raised. This is Brian Skipper. Let's bring him up. What's going on, Brian? Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You good?
Yeah, I had to step away for a while, so I don't know if it was brought out or not. But did you go over like pruning and trimming your plant?
Oh, yes. Okay. So with that, really quick, that won't take long at all. That'll come into when you start looking up the regiment for your specific plant. So those two YouTube channels I got. So for instance, if you just go to Self Sufficient Me and type in sweet potatoes, like when you go to his channel or whatever, and like do the search or type in his name, Self Sufficient Me, with sweet potatoes, he'll give you a full regimen. So he'll tell you how to, trim it. And the thing with sweet potatoes is the reason I love them is when the leaves start to grow, you can eat the leaves. That's food. And you can cook that in stir fry. You can just eat them off the stem and it's food. So they'll teach you specifically because again, we'll be here all night if I went to every single aspect of every single plant that people think about growing. But yeah, the trimming and pruning is important, especially some plants you don't have to trim into. You don't have to trim them. But tomatoes you do, and there's ways to do it. There's ways to trim it to where you can regrow the stalks that you cut off. There's ways to do that, and those grow into a whole new tomato plant. So yeah, you definitely would look into that as you go. Does that answer your question?
Uh, yeah. I really just wanted it to being brought out because I have a little experience gardening as well. It made a real big difference on the yield, especially like with tomatoes
Mm-hmm.
and peppers.
Yeah.
Chopping them
Yeah.
and do some extra limbs, like you said, put them trim. Gives it more time to put the energy into growing the fruit versus just growing foliage or
Mm-hmm.
growing parts that you want.
Exactly. Now, yeah, I don't know. You were coming in kind of low, so I'll repeat what you said. He said when you're doing the trimming and pruning, it forces the plant to focus more on fruit production versus growing the leaves and the stems and things like that. So that's when you're trimming. That's essentially what you're doing. You're telling the plant, or the plant is saying, "Oh, he cut off this part, so now let me just go ahead and focus on the tomatoes again." And they start putting more energy in the tomatoes. So yeah, it's very important. And um, not everything needs to be pruned and trimmed. Like for instance, corn, you just let it grow; it'll grow. It takes care of itself. You do got to watch out for pest, but some things they definitely need trimming. Tomatoes are one of them, um, because if you let it grow wild, you're not going to get a whole lot of tomatoes, but you're going to get a whole lot of foliage. So um, very good, Brian. Thanks for bringing that out. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, cool. We have another speaker. Welcome to the stage, Shalom.
That's interesting. My question is, as far as sweet potatoes, because I have two grow boxes, do you think they would do better in there, or I can always invest in the bags because I know potatoes do good in bags as well. Which one do you think is better for sweet potatoes, in your opinion?
Um, I think they can do better, good anywhere. That's why I love sweet potatoes so much. They can grow in anything. They're pretty tough, so it's not like, oh, I need um, Aquafina water. No. You put them in you put them in a box. They're going to grow well. Just make sure that whatever you put them in, the container is can drain very well and it can get some aeration. So you said you have a grow box.
Yeah, well, I have a
Oh,
raised the raised beds. I got two
okay, the
from
raised bed.
Menards.
Okay,
Yeah.
con. Um, so yeah, just make sure that the water drains out. It doesn't settle at the bottom and start to get soggy. And make sure it's got enough soil and everything. It'll do fine. It'll do great. You don't have to worry about it
The water.
on the bar. Is there? Oh, go ahead, Ben. Just want to know if there's anyone else. If not, we can
No,
close.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I was just agreeing with what y'all was saying. Listen, anybody that does had any potato greens with some smoked turkey, they don't even understand. So, yeah, the greens off the potatoes is fire. That's one of the first things I had when I came to South Carolina. It's a lot of that down here. So, but yeah. Anybody else got any questions? Okay. So with that being said, we want to give all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Give all praises to the mighty Yahweh for allowing us to be here. Brother Leo bringing out this lesson for our people. This will be up on the YouTube. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, the mid morning brew. If you're not following, make sure you follow Thy Kingdom Come, become a member, nominate someone. And yeah, we also have if you're not in the Thy Kingdom Come telechat, contact myself or Brother Leo, and we'll get you in the telechat so you can stay informed on the lessons coming about. Also, go down in my bio, and you can follow us on the IG as well as the Thy Kingdom Come Gmail. So, with that being said, we pray that everyone have a beautiful rest of your evening, and we'll say shalom.
Shalom.